Today's episode of Wine and Dime is sponsored by Rooted Planning Group, a fee-only financial planning firm that believes life is about events, supported by your dollars and cents. And we want to help you achieve your goals. Hop on over to www.rootedpg.com to learn more about the services. Every week, it's my goal to share financial information that helps you in both your life and Financial Vineyard. We hope it takes you from your roots to the journey of your vines and the influences in the air that have helped craft your delicious life. Like wine, life and finances have different palates that should be celebrated and not judged. Hello, Wine and Dime listeners. Amy Irvine, CEO and founder of Rooted Planning Group here today. Very excited about the final edition of 2023 of Wine and Dime. This is the final episode for this year. And joining me is Carrie Bean, Liz Zemak, Becky Eason, and Kate Welker. So we are super excited to have the gang here today to focus on giving you our one financial tip that we hope you walk away with 2023 or build into 2024's calendar, our favorite tip. We thought it'd make it fun. And then at the very end of the podcast, I know I've been teasing you for the last couple of weeks. We have a big special announcement that we're going to make. So make sure you stay tuned for that announcement. And so I just want to say, for those of you that, look forward to the little wine tip, I think I mentioned last week that I didn't have a particular wine. I was looking at a region. Well, this morning, as the team knows, because they got a message from me in Slack, I'm going to Italy. And Italy is going to be, it's actually sitting on the counter right now, ready for me to open it. 4:55 today. So the region that we're focusing on is Italy. A lot of people think of Italy as Chianti, but they also have a lot of other good wines. And this particular one that I picked out was a red blend. So more to come in future episodes on so I'm kind of picking 2024 as the year of, can I find a lot of good wines under $20? That's my goal for 2024, being budget conscious on my wine choices. Anyway, back to the topic of the day, which is everybody's favorite tip. So I'm going to go around the screen that I'm looking at, and or if somebody wants to go first, raise your hand. But Carrie, you're listed first as on my screen. Would you like to go first and give your favorite tip that you like to give to clients, or that you'd like clients to leave 2023 with?
Okay. Yes. So this is not just a financial tip, but I think a tip for life in general, and you can apply it to finances or any area of your life. And I didn't come up with this tip. I stole it from probably one of my favorite books, and it's Discipline is Freedom. And so I think that's a skill, that discipline that you can apply to every area of your life. So it's basically not procrastinating, whether it be in your finances. I think sometimes we tend to ignore things and then they pile up versus, taking care of things up front. So I think discipline is freedom is my tip. I think for me, not only is it finances, but it's also like working out. Sometimes I don't want to work out and I don't want to do things, but if I can do them, then I feel that sense of freedom the rest of the day. And as far as finances, I think sometimes we stick our head in the mud. And I think if we can, not procrastinate, focus on the things that we're supposed to focus on, it gives us a sense of freedom and a picture of where we're at. And sometimes even if the picture isn't as good as you want it to be, knowing what the picture is, I think, and moving forward with that's really important.
That's a great point, Carrie. And I know Liz and I actually worked with a client this year that made the decision to get their head out of the sand, and they had significant debt and their cash flow was negative, which is what caused the significant debt. And they were ready to get their head out of the sand and look at the situation and say, okay, I need to make change, but you know what? I don't know where to start. That was the biggest challenge, was that they felt like they had, these are their words, not mine, but they had dug themselves in such a hole. How do I get out of it? And so just laying it out, right? Like putting it in front of your face and saying, okay, I'm going to map this out. And if I need help, that's the other thing. If I need help, I'm going to commit to going to get help on that particular. So it's not just about procrastination. It's also not procrastinating if you don't know how to do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And as women, we do have a hard time, at least I do, have a hard time asking for help.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that tip. And the name of the book again was what? Just to make sure.
It's Jocko's book. I think the book is actually Discipline is Freedom. I'll have to, maybe we can put it in the notes or something. I'll look it up and send you the link.
Yeah.
But it's a great book.
He also has a podcast. It's
yes.
long. They're long episodes, but they're very, very interesting. I've listened to some at times. You can tell he was military, the way that he approaches things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Next on my screen, and because I brought her up as well, is Liz Bemak. Liz is the newest edition of Rooted Planning Group. She's been with us just about 6 months at this point in time. Hard to believe. She fit in from day one and has really hit the road running. Liz, what would be your tip that you would like listeners to walk away with in 2023?
So I do want to preface this with, we did not plan this, but mine piggybacks off of Carrie's. It's almost perfect. That's why I was sitting here and I'm like, wow, mine was going to be to start small. So when you're trying to implement change, or to that example, like if you're trying to get out of debt or you're in something that feels overwhelming, and I'm going to relate this also to my piece I do for the newsletter of Your Health is Your First Wealth. A lot of people, especially coming up in the new year, are trying to make some big changes. When you do that, you really need to start small and set yourself up for success. Take little bite-size amounts that you can handle. You know, like Carrie said, you might be looking at that big picture and it's super overwhelming, the amount of change that you are hoping to do, or you just don't know where to start with your finances. Start small. And if you're, some people have a savings goal. I really want to save up for this trip or my child's college or retirement. Start with, the really small, $10 a week even. It's something, and it helps you see that success, and you really start to build that discipline of, oh, that felt good. I did that. That felt good. And I achieved that. So that's my tip coming in.
Yeah, which is a great one. I think it is, even if it's $5, right? If it starts, if it's a buck, like a buck, right. $1 a week adds up to $52 a year, adds up to $104 in 2 years. Like it makes a difference. So yeah, starting small is great, Liz. And that's true. I think, relating back to Your Health is Your First Wealth article, that's true with healthcare. That's true with, like, if you're trying to lose weight, how do you sustainably lose weight? You start small, right? Little changes in your life that you make. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've had that applied to a lot of things in my life. My husband, Levi, and I built our house. How did we do it? We took it in chunks and little small pieces. And, it might be a really overwhelming thing to look at, or you're trying to learn about your finances and it's overwhelming. Start small. Just start with one thing. So that's mine.
And I'm going to put a little plug in that if you're looking for something to reference to start small, Rooted Planning Group just so happens to have a book that you can get that actually walks you through a small step every single month. So I unshamelessly have that plug that I'm going to put in there. Thank you so much, Liz.
Nope.
So Becky Eason is next in our little grid. We are like the little Brady Bunch is the way I look at us, except we're all women. Becky's next on our list, and Becky has had a very adventurous year. So I can't wait to hear what her tip is. Many of you may recall that Becky was last year at this point in time on maternity leave with her adorable little girl. We've seen her grow over the past year enormously. I just can't believe how big she's gotten. And we were talking about, before we started this conversation, we were talking about this is her second Christmas, but really her first aware Christmas and like of the lights and all that sort of stuff. So Becky, you've had quite an adventurous year. What would you like folks to walk away with, or what have you learned over the last year being a first-time mom?
Yeah, I think, using the end of the year as a reflection point to look back on the year that you just experienced and think about what brought you joy and how you can continue that into the next year. So I know one of the questions we've been asking a lot of clients is, what is something you spent money on that brought you joy? And what are you proud of? And taking that and thinking about it to set yourself up for that continued joy, I think is really important, because you may spend money on something, and it may seem like a lot, but if that's what you truly want, then it's worth it.
Okay. That's a great tip. Thank you, Becky, for sharing that. And, we do ask all of our clients that question. And I will say it has generated some of the most meaningful conversations that we've had with clients. And it seems like they're really enjoying it. It's car talk is what I call it, right? They've been saying, oh, we talked about that last night, or we talked about that in the car. So I think that's a wonderful tip, Becky. Any particular tip for first-time moms that you've learned over the last year?
Oh, geez, there's so many of them. I think the big one is just kind of roll with it. You never know what life is going to throw at you, but just see where it takes you.
Yeah, that's part of the joy of being a mom, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you, Becky. Hey, you're next on my, screen here. I can't wait to hear what your tip is the most, I almost said oldest. That's not the case. The most senior member on the team, the one that has been with Rooted Planning Group besides me the longest. You get very conscientious of words like that. It's going to start to show some numbers on the page. What would be your tip that you would leave listeners with?
I'm chuckling first because the other day I caught myself in a meeting and I called my client experienced instead of an age-based word, because I caught myself. It was going to come out wrong. And I said, you are experienced in life, is I think how I'd phrased it. But I kind of came up to I phrased my tip as life happens. We've been having a lot of conversations with clients, and there's so much of, I think this piggybacks well off of, Carrie and Liz and Becky's comments about what happened in the past, and afraid, thinking I can't move forward, or I've made these mistakes, I'm so far behind. A lot of times, a lot of shame about what's happened. And I usually respond with life happens. Like life happens. You can't change what you did, but let's make a plan to go forward. Maybe you cashed out your 401k and did something that, looking back, was maybe not the wisest decision, but let's figure out where you are now. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people have had bad relationships with some advisors in the past that made them feel that way too. So just really, it's behind you. It's behind you. Put it away and let's get a new perspective. Let's set new intentions going forward so that we don't fall into those same things. And for anyone that's more of my, elder millennial generation, sometimes I use the phrase pivot, because we all laugh about the classic Friends scenes, but that's really what that point in time is. Like, pivot. Look at what, you're stuck in a situation, and you just gotta, maybe you're still going to be stuck, but you're going to try to think of a creative solution and a better way to go forward.
Okay, first, I love that you use the Friends scene. Pivot. Like, that's one of my favorite shows. Yeah, it's one of my absolute favorite episodes of Friends. And to rephrase what you said, I think it's don't should on yourself, right? That's a phrase that I've used in the past. Like, don't should on yourself. Just let it go. You got to let it go. There's just nothing you can do about it. It's not going to make it any better. Like putting that kind of pressure on yourself. Let it go. Move forward. Mm-hmm. That's a great tip. And I'll end the tip from the team with me, and the team is going to probably chuckle when I say that, but I'm going to say, do something scary. That is my tip for you. The reason that I share that is because this year was, to your term, a pivoting year for Rooted Planning Group. And talk about doing something scary. We've been doing a lot of things that have made me lay in bed at night and worry and are scary. And you know what? The result has not been as scary as I made it. The result so far has been such positive feedback, such support, so much enhancement in my life. And I realize, things are still probably rolling out from some of the things that we did this year. But I would encourage everybody to think about something that they're really scared of, and think about, for me, how would it improve your life if it works, not if it fails. And so for 2024, that's my motto, that I'm going to think about, how I did something that was really scary. And I'll let you know in December of 2024 how that all worked out. But I'm excited about heading into 2024. The first scary thing that I'm going to announce, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, is the change of Wine and Dime name. So in the past, Wine and Dime has always been a podcast that I've done where I've given you a tip about wine. I've given you financial tips, and it's always been me pretty much hosting the show. In 2024, this gang that you're talking to today are also going to be hosts. We're going to rotate this. We're going to switch it up, and we're going to rename it from Wine and Dime to Money Roots. Super excited about this change and the direction of the podcast. Now, I'm still going to give you my favorite wine tips from time to time. So don't think that that's going to be left out, because that's my second passion. And I'm going to make sure that I share that with you, but I'm going to have some fun with it and try to find some wineries and some wines, because, we have Total Wine down here in Florida. We have GCP in upstate New York. And on my travels next year, I'm going to make that my mission to find really good wines that are affordable. But the podcast is going to be fun in that we're going to bring guests in to talk to different people and from different angles. You're going to hear from different team members over the course of the year, and we're going to make it a Rooted Planning Group podcast instead of an Amy Irvine hosted podcast. That was my first scary thing and scary decision that I made. Wine and Dime has been around since 2016. Been a long run on that podcast, and I'm thrilled about how it has turned out and the number of listeners that we have. But I'm even more excited to go this route because I think more people will find us on iTunes based on the name. So that's my scary thing, and that's what I'll report back and let you know. My goal for the podcast next year is to have 10,000 listeners. So we have a lift of about 2,500 that we need to bump it up. But I think, again, by changing the name, we'll be able to reach more people. And I'm super excited about that. Thank you, everyone, for joining me today. Loved having the whole gang here of planners on our team. And thank you, everyone, for listening. I hope you have a wonderful rest of this year. We look forward to the new brand in 2024. We look forward to your feedback. We look forward to your questions. And I just want to give a special shout out and thank you to TJ Meehan of Meehan Media, who always comes in, produces the episode, fixes the faux pas, and makes sure it gets released on time, even when I'm last minute. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the holidays.
And that will about do it for today's episode of Wine and Dime. You can contact Amy through the website, www.rootedpg.com, or amy@rootedpg.com. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram @RootedPG for the latest news. And if you have any questions, comments, or topics you would like to hear about, feel free to let us know. And don't forget to rate and subscribe the show wherever you get your podcasts. And again, thank you for listening, and be sure to tune in next time.